And today I'd like to speak to you about our gospel and how our year has gone. And I need to get to my notes first. Here we are. So, as you all know, my fellow missioners and I just got back from Honduras. And we've got many, many stories to tell you. Just, very, very poignant stories. But one of the things that I always learn when I go to Honduras is that I come back very, very grateful for what we have here. I mean, the church that we work with has grown and developed, with a lot of help, from a lot of people, but the people themselves work very, very hard to keep the church that they have and maintain it. And we usually go and begin projects, and they finish them up, and we leave resources for them to finish, and sometimes we help them maintain some things. But inevitably, I always reflect, because we always go about the same time of the year, and we're just finishing up our pledge campaign and working on our budget and so forth. And even though we're always facing our own challenges, compared to what they have to face, we have nothing but wonderful blessings in our midst compared to them. And so I always come back with a very, very grateful heart. And the people who go on the mission trips are called, like the apostles today were called. Not everybody gets called to go on a mission trip because it's very difficult. When I tell my father some of these stories, and you'll be hearing about Chepe, if those of you who don't have Facebook, you'll be hearing about Chepe, who was the senior warden at the church in Honduras, and his terrible condition when we found him. And I was telling my father the story, and he got very emotional, and he says, "No, don't tell me anymore. Don't tell me. I can't stand it. I can't hear those stories because they tear my heart." And while it's very, very hard to hear and to see some of the things that we see, I mean, we have to be there, but it's a call. And some people can't. Like if my father were to go, he'd be immobilized, from all of the stuff that he would see. So we're not all called to go. We're all called to assist in some way, but we each are called in a different way to do different things. And all of the various calls that we have are needed and valid and important. So, as parishes go, this particular parish has a pretty high percentage of people who volunteer, who partner with us in the various ministries that we do. In my former position in New York, I was canon for congregational development, and so I was exposed to many, many congregations, and it was my job to work with them on leadership development and so forth. And one of the biggest challenges any church faces is how do you get people involved in the church, and how do you get a church to run efficiently and to do what it needs to do, because there's the ministerial part of the church, and then there's this logistical thing that happens in the church, and both are important, but sometimes the logistical stuff starts to eat away at the energy of a congregation, and the missional stuff starts kind of fading because we're so caught up in keeping up with things. And the more people that are involved, the easier it is for us to focus on the program and the mission and the true focus of the church. Well, this particular parish that we're in right now, in respect to other parishes, has a culture of participation. Most people understand that we do things for others and that we respond to the community. So it's kind of part of the culture of our church. It's part of the ethos of our church that we respond to the call. And at the same time, I'm also sensing I've been with you all 8 years now, and I'm also sensing that there's a sense of feeling overwhelmed by all of the things that we do. And it's a growing concern for me that there is this feeling that perhaps we may be doing too much. We have a demanding ministry here at St. Paul's, and we place really high expectations on what we think we should be doing. And when I was on sabbatical, I wrote, and I said to you, because I had time to think about it, you know, am I creating this need for us to do so many things, or was that already here when I got here and I just jumped right into it along with you? And I've never really gotten a good sense of which one of those things happened. But the reality is that I kind of think that that's how y'all are. Y'all are just very, very busy, committed people, and you like doing a lot of things, not just here at St. Paul's, but out in the community as well. And so even if it's true that that's how it's always been, do we have to keep up this pace? I don't think so. I don't think we have to keep up this pace, because I'm really getting concerned about burnout. And I want our really active people to feel joy when they come to church. I don't want people to feel burdened and weighed by the expectations of what we have to do here at the parish. You know, because there's a line between feeling that you're needed and feeling that you're being used. And I don't want us to cross that line. And if we have crossed that line, then we need to stop. And we need to talk about how do we change that. Because I want this to be a place to come and be energized. One of the reasons I like that opening hymn, All Are Welcome, is because it speaks to the hope of what we're building here. It's very inspirational. It's kind of a vision, so to speak, that hymn. And if you see line by line, you know, it addresses certain aspects of the church that I hope that we can be. But if we get too caught up in the many things that we're all trying to do at the same time, I'm concerned that that energy that we feel or that energy that we should be feeling for church will be drained away. I want you to come here and hear music that makes your heart soar, and prayers that touch your heart and your soul. I want you to hear sermons that inspire you and sometimes challenge you, but mostly sermons that inspire you to be your magnificent selves. And there's all kinds of evidence about how you can be magnificent, and many times you come forward and you do it. You're magnificent. And there's many opportunities here to be magnificent and useful and so forth. But if you're feeling overburdened, then there's a disconnect. We're doing something wrong. I don't want that feeling of overburden. You come to church and, oh my God, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I want you to say, oh, yay, it's time to come to St. Paul's and get inspired and energized. And I love coming here because here's where I get all my affirmation and validation and inspiration and so forth. And I kind of feel like maybe it's not happening. And I want us to get to that place. So many things to do, but how necessary are all of these things that we're doing? So we're at an interesting place where some of our longtime members are getting to be octogenarians, and our new members are not experienced enough to take on the big projects that we have. And our prime candidates to do all this work are feeling maybe overwhelmed. So where's the good news when we're facing things like a smaller vestry, deficit budget, roof repairs, things like that? There is good news. There is good news, because what we can do is make something beautiful out of what we have. And we have a lot. So without feeling that we are somehow failing or not doing enough or not fulfilling our own expectations, we need to dial it back. Let's look at what's really important. What's really going to make a difference in our own lives and in the lives of the community in a way that isn't going to burden us. Now, there is a phenomenon that's going on at the same time that our church is in a shift. There's this other thing that's going on out in the larger world. At Thanksgiving, Trinity Center put on their website that we were going to have a dinner here in the parish hall, and there was a call for volunteers. And Carol, I don't know how many people actually reserved to say that they were coming, but a whole lot more showed up than said we're going to come. I don't know, we ended up with like 75 people that came to volunteer for the Thanksgiving dinner, and they were a variety of people. Couples with their children, high school kids, college kids, single folks, older folks, younger folks. I mean, all kinds of people came that day. I mean, we had more volunteers than we had homeless people coming to eat. It was kind of odd, But what that says to me is that people are looking for a place to serve. Now, I don't know if they're looking for a church to belong to, but they are looking for a place to serve. And the gospel, and the gospel says, not in today's gospel, but in the gospel, it says that whoever does good deeds, whoever does for the least of these, does it for me. So whether or not they actually belong as members of this congregation or that they come to church on Sundays, people are looking for a place to serve. So there's a connection here somewhere between all of the things that we need for us to continue to do what we do and that need that's out there for people to do good stuff. So somehow we have to connect these things. But until we do, because I don't really know what that would look like, and maybe we're a clearinghouse for volunteerism, done in a day kind of, opportunities. We'd have to kind of organize that in a way, and we'd have to be comfortable with that. But maybe that's a way for us to be church in the future. Maybe belonging and being members comes after you serve. I mean, the way we do it now, you belong, you become a member, and then you volunteer. But what if it's the other way around? What if you come and volunteer and you gradually see that this perhaps is a place where you can come and belong? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. In the meantime, while we kind of work that out and find this connection between that pool of people that is out there looking for some place to come and serve and the things that we have to do, I would like for all of us who are super active in the congregation and those of us who would like to be active in the congregation, I'd like for us to meet and let's look at the priorities that we have. What are the projects, what are the ministries that we want to really focus on and do, and which are the ones that maybe we can scale back? Or I'm just worried that I don't want this to be a place where you're feeling overwhelmed. I want this to be a great energizing place. And I need to hear how do we get there, because I don't know that we're there right now. I don't want us to feel that burden. I want us to feel joy and energy. So Jesus is calling. And so I ask you to say yes again, but let's say yes in a way that we can sustain for several years. So let's look at the long-term way that we do all the wonderful things that we're called to do. Now, 2014 was not a milestone year for us, but even so, we had fabulous events, like our centennial year. This congregation is a significant presence in this community. We have several members in this congregation who actually shape the history of Walnut Creek. And so we had this beautiful event, and we inaugurated the new Family Ministry Center, and our chapel was recognized as one of the 5 most important historical buildings in Walnut Creek. I mean, lots of really good things happened. And of course, the challenges, but we met the challenges and made them into opportunities. For example, there was so much grace when the bookstore folks decided that, it was time to close the bookstore. Well, that could have been a crisis moment. But the people at the bookstore, Helen and Carol and Julie and the rest of the bookstore folks, they helped us make it into an opportunity. We converted that space with their help, with the proceeds from the bookstore. We converted that space into a family ministry center. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's lovely. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful space for families and the kids. It's child and parent friendly. And that happened with, it was such a smooth transition. It was a joy. It was wonderful. We have challenges, but we can make them into beautiful opportunities. Now, I'm so grateful to all of you who give so much of your time and talent to make our parish inviting and beautiful, and all of you who partner with us to make a big difference in the life of the parish. I mean, from the most visible ministries like our master gardeners and the guys who handle our building maintenance and repairs, and the women who pour their hearts and souls into the decorations in the parish hall, our acolytes, and the music and the singing and liturgy, and behind the scenes work of the altar guild, and assistant treasurers, the office volunteers, and a whole bunch of other wonderful people. All of you are called, and you've all said yes. And I'm so grateful for that. There's so many other ways that many of you serve. It's really hard to name them all. And to say thank you to all is small. It's little compared to what you all give and do. And I want us to continue that for decades to come. But I want us to do it in a way that is life-giving. So please join me when we set the date for gathering to find out how do we manage this better. Please join me. Let's have a good conversation and find out, how do we do this? How do we do this better? Amen.